Chapter 8. Overcoming objection when prospect is happy with their present supplier. My dear reader, believe me, every single day, I hear the agony of salespeople who are confused, frustrated, or defeated by facing what they feel is a nearly insurmountable sales objection when salespeople say they are confronted with buyers who says that they are happy with their present supplier. Honest? Jokes asides, trust me, this fearful experience does strikes terror in most salespeople. And often many ask me for advice on how to overcome such objections. Fear not. The problem is that this is not an objection. It is a statement of a fact and should be expected. Period. In all honesty, how many of you think that a company is not using someone else for the product or service you are offering? It's obvious that, if buyers may be in business for your products, someone else is already in there, dealing with their needs. True or not? It is clear that the prospective company is already doing business with one of your competitors. Question: if that decision maker were completely unhappy and unsatisfied with that current vendor, do you think he or she would have done something about it by now? Again, what business person would continue to do business with a vendor for which they truly did not want to do business? And if that were the case, then would not that vendor had probably called you and to meet with you? So, the statement "I'm happy with my current supplier" isn't an objection. Now is more obvious, isn't it? For starters, to overcome this problem, it's important to identify any drawbacks or difficulties your prospect might have before selling. Then, show them how your offerings will resolve their challenges, or you need to explain how your offers are better than the competitors. Make no mistake, no business can offer something with no drawbacks. You need to recognize what your prospect's existing solution lacks, and then show them how your offerings will solve that problem or make it easier on the decision making. Of course, you hear this objection over and over. Most prospects are not happy with their current supplier. Otherwise, they would have called you before you called them. If, by some chance, the prospect was unhappy enough that he picked up the phone to call you, in the same manner they would have also called your competitors as well. Get my drift? For openers, it is important to dig deeper into the prospect's relationship with his current supplier. Ask how long they have been dealing with their supplier and why they changed to them in the first place. Ask what it is specifically that makes them happy with their current supplier. Generally, in overcoming such objections, below are the following 4 important steps to stick to. Steps 1. Plan ahead. To answer the "I'm happy with my current supplier" objection, you must also plan ahead by knowing what competitive advantages you have over that supplier. You can then develop questions which differentiate yourself. For example, Mr. Prospect, some users of your brand of widgets have told us that they experienced an issue with XYZ. Have you ever experienced this problem? How did that affect your operation? Would it help if we solved that problem? Step 2. Know your competition. By being prepared with questions for at least 3 competitive advantages for each particular supplier, you should create enough need in the prospect's eyes so that you can get the appointment. If not, perhaps they were not the competitive advantages that you thought they were. Hence, the bottom line is you can't sell unless you get in the door. Don't be surprised by this objection. Expect it and plan for it. Step 3. Know you and yourself. Mind you, this has to be one of the most asked questions in my sales training. In my personal experience, the first action that I will take is to go through a few key elements, one of which is to take notice in salespeople when they have asked me that question. Generally, their whole body language tightens. They get uncomfortable and they retract in on themselves. It's as if they are expecting the worst thing they can imagine to just happen there and then. This will obviously have a huge impact on the way they communicate with the prospects on the other end of the phone or in person. When I ask how they would answer this or what answers they have come up with, I am very often faced with blank faces. A large part of a salespeople's ability to be successful in telesales or personal interview is the way they handle themselves, their self-image, and the way they prepare. There is no magic right answer to this sales objection, and there never will be. Step 4. Know your answers. Any top-flight sales professional will have gone beyond searching for a sales trick answer and will have begun to apply logic and brain power to the challenge. The fact that people we speak to on the phone or personal interview don't always give us the right answer. It's more of demonstrating the product, their features, advantages, and benefits. That is their value proposition. Once you have done this, you are in a fantastic position to do the thing that top performers do to develop their own compelling reason why the other buyer should enter into a dialogue with you regardless of competitions. This thought process is a skill that can never be taken away from you. In the meantime, don't forget that you, the sales individual, are not looking to change the person's mind with your answer. You are merely trying to enter into a conversation where you can see if you can help them out. It's not a be-all and end-all situation. If all else fails, you can always use the old tried and tested. Well, that's exactly why we should speak. If you must know, the objection "I'm happy with my current vendor" from a prospective customer is a wonderful thing. Honest. You better believe it. Why? The reasons? There are two reasons for a customer to tell you "I'm happy with my current vendor," and both are good. The first reason is that bad salespeople out there have trained him to use "I'm happy with my current vendor" because it gets rid of bad salespeople. If this is the case, the objection is an auto response and we can handle it. We simply have to show him that we are not a bad salesperson. Instead, we are a vendor who has his best interests at heart. The second reason that you as the sales professionals hear this objection, it may be that your potential customer is genuinely happy. This is even better. If he is happy and you earn a piece of his business and keep performing, he will be happy with you. On the other hand, switching vendors is terribly scary, especially if you are selling something that is essential to the core of his business. If a customer changes vendors at the drop of a hat because someone offers them a lower price, then we don't want them as a customer. Someone can always beat you on price. Believe it or not. I trust there is more things involved in dealing with "I'm happy with my current vendor." It's more than what you see above. I also know that these tools will help you on your way up. Apart from above, there are still 3 other tactics to overcome such objection. They are often used successfully by top-flight sales professional. It bears even repeating. Yes, 1. Common sense. Of course, they are happy with their current supplier or vendor, and you should already assume that it is not an objection. Therefore, do not take it as an objection and move on. Instead of trying to argue the fact that perhaps you would make a better supplier, take the sales process as it should, progress one step at a time. Too glad to hear that. Do not argue the point. Instead, agree and even congratulate the prospect and let them know the reason for your contact at this stage of the sales process. 3. The opposite. The situation is the exact opposite of what most salespeople think. Don't fear the prospect who is happy with their current supplier. To tell you the truth, there is nothing really to fear. The reason? You are offering something of extra value to the prospect, and that's always a good thing. The prospect will see you as an asset to their company, rather than trying to oust an existing supplier. You add value, and they see the value in you. Let's face it, it's not an easy sales objection to overcome. And the first thing to remember in sales is, no pain, no sale. In other words, if the customer has no dissatisfaction with their current situation and or supplier, then they have no compelling reason to make a change and leave the status quo. After all, why fix it if it's not broken? In truth, and I repeat, the objection of "I'm happy with my current vendor" is only a blow-off to end the conversation or terminate. It is not a reason for not doing business together. All in all, these approaches takes the heat away from the salesman when trying to overcome this blow-off objection of "I'm happy with my current vendor." And it allows the salesperson to discover how the customer would really buy from him or her. Or could be a lame excuse to fire the current vendor so as to allow you to compete with the incumbent vendor. On the other hand, what if you still hear the objection repeatedly from the same prospect? In such a case, you must assume that your prospect truly is 100% happy with their current vendor. Let's assume you call them every 30 days and they tell you this over and over, month after month. Let's also assume you understand how they would buy from you and that you also know they have hired several buyers from your competitor over the past month, but they didn't share any of those opportunities with you. Hence, under such a situation, you would ask, how do I really overcome this? Normally, we need to probe for pain. We need to probe for pain regarding their level of satisfaction with their vendor, plus with the progress of their project and or performance of their team or department. By the way, to conclude this chapter on overcoming objection when prospect is happy with their present supplier, here is a brief summary. Alright. Hence, to recap in a nutshell, do remember the seriousness of this kind of objections. If not handled properly, it could cause the salesperson be highly demoralized for a very long time. Longer than you think. True? Without sounding like a broken record, it is worth repeating that such problem is not an objection. It's only a statement. Incidentally, you would recall that to overcome this objection, it's important to identify any drawbacks or problems your prospect might have before even selling. After which, you show your prospect how your offerings will resolve their challenges. Furthermore, you need to explain how your offers are better than the competitors. As a faithful reader of this chapter, you must honestly promise yourself to seriously learn and practice the methods and ways to overcome such objections skillfully. Agree or not? In closing the chapter, do read the words of Samuel Johnson. He was an English writer who made lasting contributions as a poet, playwright, essayist, moralist, critic, biographer, editor, and lexicographer. He says, "Nothing will ever be attempted if all possible objections must first be overcome." End of chapter.